What is good? Thank you for joining us here for the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. Today is Thursday, May 22nd, in the year of our Lord 2025. It has been a busy few days. We have the big, beautiful bill that passed the House. I'm not sure how beautiful it is, but it passed. The president went straight beast mode on another head of state. It was beautiful to watch. And a once great country has fallen. So we'll take a look at that. And we got a whole bunch more to get to if we have the time. But thank you for joining us here for the briefing on the SHR Media Network. Please take a second to like this show, subscribe to this show, subscribe to the channel, so that we can reach as many people as we can. We are at last time I looked, we were 19 away from 500. So that's a milestone that we're really looking forward to. That will definitely help us spread the word. But you can also follow us on all the socials at Mission Ready Men. And for our merch, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have over there. All right, y'all, now that business is out of the way, let us get after it. Now, first I want to talk about, I just want to mention, we had two young Jewish people gunned down in DC. And it is a tragedy. And the suspect who waited there for the authorities to arrest him was chanting, Palestine will be free. I mean, the anti-Semitic direction that we're going is terrible. It's terrible. I don't have any details on this incident. I'm sure we will get into it as the day goes on, and we'll probably talk about it on the next show. But so I just wanted to mention that, and our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims, and we pray that the person who did this gets the justice that he deserves. And also the big, beautiful bill, I'm not sure how beautiful it is, but it passed this morning by one vote. We had a couple of Republicans voting with Democrats and one voting present. So it passed. It's going to go to the Senate. I am of the thought that these ridiculous 1,000-page bills, that should not happen. Bills need to be at most for a complicated issue, 3 pages. At most. Bills should be routinely 1 or 2 pages. A single issue bill that gets voted on, passed, and signed into law. But these monstrosities are just ridiculous. And I know that's what Trump wanted. I am not a fan of it, but at the same time, we have to play the hand we're dealt, and the hand we're dealt is the big beautiful bill. So let's hope that it passes the Senate, and then hopefully, it's probably wishful thinking, but hopefully that they get to work on correcting some of the issues that are with that bill and everything else, because this is unsustainable. But anyway, we will get into that in more detail in our next show, I'm sure. But right now, I want to talk about something that is going on in this country and around the world, and focus on the UK, because the UK has fallen. I don't think there's any I don't think there's any question about that at this point. The UK was once the cradle of, global Christianity, and now they arrest preachers for quoting the Bible and ignore the systematic and calculated abuse of young girls, and not only calculate, but they brag about it, and they just let it go in the name of cultural sensitivity. It's ridiculous, and they bent the knee. The UK has bent the knee. Britain used to send missionaries around the world, and now it is a post-truth, post-Christian country, openly hostile to its Christian roots, and it's sad to watch. Muslims now make up. Muslims now make up 6.5% of the population in England and Wales. That's 3.9 million people, according to the most recent census data over there. And Muslims, what prompted me to talk about this was that there are a number of Muslim mayors of major cities over there. The most famous, obviously, is Sadiq Khan, who just last year won re-election for a third term in London, Donistan. And there's a whole host of British mayors. Let me see if I have a list. Not just mayors, but politicians in general, which is going to play into another point that we're going to make here in a minute. But you have Sajid Javid, who is a member of parliament, Shabana Mahmood, Saheed Malik, Sajid Javid, I already mentioned him, Reman Christie, and I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. These are mayors and members of parliament over there. And the mayors, especially like Sadiq Khan, he has executive authority over one of the most influential cities in the world, in London. And when you take a look at all of the mayors of these cities and all of the members of parliament, is it any wonder that Muslims are just allowed to do whatever they want to do? Is it any wonder? A lot of these cities, and probably the ones that have these Muslim mayors, they've changed their public policy in order to accommodate these customs that these Islamic communities have. It's sad to watch. It's sad to watch. And Muhammad, the name Muhammad, is now over in England it is the most popular male baby name in the UK. They're taking over. And this is their goal. And as I said, the UK just bent the knee. And then we have the grooming scandal that took place, that we covered it a little bit here on this show. Between 1997 and 2013, 1,400 girls were sexually abused by grooming gangs in Rotherham alone, which is one of the cities that just elected a Muslim mayor. And we talked about it before, how the local authorities ignored the complaints, and in one case arrested the victims. I just that's one of the saddest parts about it, is that the victims, these young teenage girls who were being brutally abused by these animals, were themselves arrested because these guys fed them alcohol and got them drunk, and so they were arrested for public drunkenness. Just all backwards and disordered, and it's just it's sad. It's really sad, because it was a total betrayal of the children who were abused by these people. The government's supposed to protect them, and they're protecting their abusers. And then on top of that, to compound the problem, Christians are being arrested for praying. Christian preachers, for proclaiming the word of God, are being arrested for hate speech or something. Public, I think, is one of the charges. They're not doing anything but proclaiming the word of God. But because reasons, Muslims find it offensive. And this goes back to all of the Islamic mayors and Muslims who are in parliament. This is not an accident. This is not an accident. There are a number of actually famous incidents of these preachers being arrested and stuff like that. But this one is the one that I really wanted to share with you right here. Check this out.
Lord, he died for our sins. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten. Lord, he died for our sins. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten. Christ, Lord, he died for our sins.
Now, that was a quick one. That's not quite the one I wanted, but you get the idea. You get the idea. The cops are arresting him for saying Christ so loved the world, his only begotten son. That's hate speech, I guess, to Muslims who believe Allah is God, I guess. But even that doesn't even make any sense, because I wouldn't call for someone to be arrested for proclaiming their belief in Allah. I think they're wrong, but I'm not going to call the cops on them. I mean, I'll just walk away. But they don't think that way. But this is what happens. This is what happens when Christians are cowards. If Christ isn't Lord, someone or something else is going to fill that vacuum. It's that plain and simple. And the UK has bent the knee to Allah. And so Islam has filled that void over there. And unless and until something different happens, it's just going to progress. And the UK will be an Islamic country, which will be, that's a dangerous prospect to consider. That is a dangerous prospect to consider. And I pray that something happens that stops that train in its tracks. All right. I want to pivot to something else and it's not, it's kind of a parallel thing because it has to do with bending the knee. And it's in this country, we've bent the knee to the gender delusion ideology. And I'm talking about allowing men and women sports. And they're trying to sell us on the idea that it's about fairness and inclusion and kindness or whatever the case may be. But girls and women are paying the price. Girls are being injured, and then when they speak up before they get injured, or even after in some cases, they're silenced. They're punished in some way. And the people who are in charge are they're hiding behind this language. They're hiding behind the idea of equity and equality, which is it's actually kind of ironic because by touting this idea of equality and equity, they're stomping all over it. Women's equality means absolutely nothing in this instance. When dudes are allowed to participate in women's sports, it's just erasing women and girls. And of course, the feminists are nowhere to be found. In fact, some feminists are the loudest voices saying that if you just identify, if you say you're a woman, then you're a woman, which is mystifying to me. But there are a few stories I want to talk about. I really want to talk about, and I want to try and get through them as quickly as I can because there is, like I said, there's a ton of other stuff to get to today. But one case is the BPJ versus West Virginia case. And West Virginia in 2021 passed the Save Women's Sports Act, which restricted male sports to, and I hate to use the term biological females, but that's the language that the act uses. There's male and female, and to qualify it with biological or cis or anything just makes no sense to me. But BPJ is a male student who identifies, quote unquote, identifies as a girl, and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the law was unconstitutional and forced the schools to allow this kid to compete on girls' teams. And the case is now at the Supreme Court. It hasn't been ruled on, but Title IX was supposed to allow women and girls to have equal access to sports. But if you allow dudes, if you allow boys to compete, well, that just erases the entire thing. It's a complete violation and betrayal of Title IX. But they'll tell you it's progress. And then the OG, the one that started this whole thing, I think, or at least brought it into the forefront, is Fallon Fox. And if you're familiar with MMA, you have I'm sure you've heard of this case before, but Fallon Fox was a dude, former military, decided he wanted to be a girl, and and started to compete in women's MMA. And the most famous fight is his fight against Tamika Brent. And Tamika Brent was a decent fighter, if I remember correctly. And in her fight with Fallon Fox, and I don't know what his I guess dead name is, his real name, but in her fight, she suffered a fractured orbital bone, a concussion, and had to get 7 staples in her head. And she's fought women, and she never felt strength like that before. Well, of course, because she's never fought a dude. And when if you, I'm not going to show it, but if you just look at Fallon Fox to some of the women that he fought, the difference was obvious. They were in the same weight class. The difference is just so stark. How anyone would think to allow this is beyond me, absolutely beyond me. Because there is absolutely no situation where it is okay to have men compete against women, especially in combat sports. Especially in combat sports. It's not acceptable in any context, but normalizing it in combat sports or any type of physical pursuit, track, wrestling, whatever the case may be, is just not acceptable. And it's abuse. It's abuse. Because that fight between Fallon Fox and Tamika Brent, if that were in any other circumstance, he would have been arrested for attempted murder. And then when we talk about high school girls, we have Peyton McNabb. I've talked about her before. Blasted in the face by a dude spiking the ball and has never been the same. Is still suffering. This was a few years ago now, and is still suffering from the effects of that hit. Partial paralysis, memory loss, a concussion. Just in fact, I don't know if she's recovered from this, but she had lost vision in one of her eyes as a result of that. That's just ridiculous. And I don't understand how anyone thinks this is okay. And you had the girls, the girls basketball team was forced to forfeit up in Massachusetts. I can't, the name escapes me at the moment, the name of the school. There's another one up in Massachusetts, field hockey, where a girl got her face busted by a field hockey ball shot by a dude on the other team. Knocked out most of her, I don't know about most, knocked out a lot of her teeth as a result. Just ridiculous. And you always hear this thing when it comes to gun control. If it saves just one life, then it's worth it. Well, wouldn't that apply to girls competing against boys? If it saves one girl from serious injury, wouldn't it be worth it? Or are women and girls not worth it? Another story is the San Diego State volleyball team. Blair Fleming, a dude pretending to be a girl from San Jose State, injured an opposing player with a spike. And this was a pretty, I covered this as well, and this was a pretty famous story where other schools just started forfeiting the games against them. And I think that team ended up with the championship just because nobody wanted to play. This is a consequence of bending the knee to a ridiculous ideology and sacrificing fairness and safety. Because it's when you look at the pictures of these dudes up against these girls, it's so obvious. It's not even, it shouldn't even be a question. It really shouldn't. But yet, here we are. And of course, one of the most famous ones, Billy Thomas, 16 swimmers sued the NCAA and UPenn. And I believe they won. But it's just, yeah, they won, and they forced Billy Thomas to forfeit his trophies, and they awarded them to the rightful winners of those meets. This is just. I don't even. It boggles my mind that this is even a discussion. And then, of course, if you speak up about it, you get censored. The lawmaker in Maine, Laurel Libby, Representative Laurel Libby, she criticized this. She criticized Maine's the Maine governor's stance on this, and the Maine House of Representatives stripped her of her ability to vote. They censured her and stripped her ability to vote, and they took her off all of her committee seats. Now she sued, and the Supreme Court intervened and restored her rights to vote. As the case is still ongoing, but they stepped in and restored her. But it's just mind-blowing that we're even in this situation. This is no longer about equal protection. No longer about equal protection. It is about forcing people to affirm lies and delusions. Girls are being injured. Congresswomen, Laurel Libby is censured. And this is supposed to be progress, I guess. And of course, by me saying this, I'm hateful and I'm homophobic and transphobic and all the rest of it. But it's about truth. It's about biological facts. And in a lot of these cases, justice. So you have to speak up. You have to fight this, because if we don't, we could end up like the UK. And Lord knows we do not want that. All right, y'all. Let's get in a word from our sponsor, because we got a lot to get to, and I want to try and get to it all, because there's so much good stuff, and if I keep putting it off, then eventually it's not even going to be relevant anymore. But the sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear, my beautiful wife's company, and as I've said, if you want a a great gift for your wife, your girlfriend, check out carrygirl.com. They've got some of the coolest designs, highest quality shirts out there. You're not going to find any softer shirts. You're not going to find any higher quality shirts than what we have over here at Carry Girl Gear. Bold designs, great fabric, and it's stuff that she's going to want to wear and wear out. And it's not just that. We've got drinkware, hats, a whole host of accessories and things that your wife or your girlfriend or daughter will absolutely love. And if you're unsure about sizes, unsure about designs, what she might like, then just grab a gift certificate. Grab a gift certificate and let her pick out her own gear. You will not be disappointed. It's quick, it's easy, and you'll get exactly what she wants. So head over to carrygirl.com today and check it out. Show your wife or your girlfriend some love and make it count. Visit carrygirl.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Man briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, which means he is going to be on tonight. He will be on tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 Pacific. So please like and subscribe, share all these guys' great shows, and pray for us that we have a huge breakthrough. As I said, we are 19 away. We are 19 away from hitting that 500 count threshold, that 500 subscription threshold, and that opens up a whole host of doors for us, and we're really looking forward to it. So please go ahead and like and subscribe and share. So we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And this is kind of a continuation of the previous subject, where we were talking about boys competing against girls and undressing in locker rooms and claiming trophies that they had no right to. And if anyone objects, people like me, people like you, if anyone objects, then we're istophobic phobophobes. And one of the most important groups of people who will stop this madness are fathers who will say, "Not my daughter." And we reach this point with these ridiculous policies because too many of us have been passively just accepting this nonsense. And we don't have to. We shouldn't. In fact, we're required not to. And there's a biblical basis for it. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. That's a mandate. And then we have Ephesians 6:4. I'm not gonna show it. Fathers are supposed to raise their children in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. I believe the King James Version says fear and admonition, but same thing. And then we have this one, which is one of my favorites when it comes to this subject. Nehemiah 4:14, and there's a little bit beforehand, but this is the context. Fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. It's not about being loud. It's not about being brash or boisterous. It's about being faithful to God, faithful to the truth, and those over whom you have a responsibility to protect. And too often, men either don't show up or have just abandon their responsibilities altogether. But there are examples of men who have stepped up and standing in the gap for their families. And one of those is a man by the name of Dan Slavin in Riverside, California. His daughter was required to compete against a dude in male cross country, and she didn't want to do it. And she and her teammates, they wore these Save Girls Sports shirts. You may have seen this story in the news. And they were punished. They were punished for that by the school. And Dan Slavin sued the school and spoke out. I'm not sure of the disposition of that case yet. But either way, he stood up. He stood up and said, no. Kyle Fellers and Anthony Foote in Bow, New Hampshire, protested biological, and I don't even like saying that, protested a dude playing girls soccer. And they wore these pink XX wristbands, and they were banned from school property. You probably remember this case too. And that case right now is in federal court. And Loudoun County, Virginia. There's been a few incidents in Loudoun County, Virginia. But this one is about a guy whose son didn't want a biological female, a girl, in the boys' locker. And the school launched a Title IX investigation against him. Because he didn't want to change in front of a girl. So it's not just the daughters. And Seth is pushing back and called it out for what it was. It's an abuse. And then there's the other famous case in Loudoun County where a boy who pretended to be a girl sexually abused a girl in that school's bathroom. That was swept under the rug. And the kid was transferred to another school where he did the same thing. But that doesn't happen, right? These people aren't a threat to anyone. No, it's just an anomaly. Not indicative of any widespread issues. Couldn't possibly be a mental disorder. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with any of the hormone treatments that these kids are taking. But none of those things could possibly mess with their brains in any way. No, no, we're just bigots, right? But these people, these men who are standing up, they're not activists. They may end up being activists after some of these cases, but they're responsible dads doing what they're supposed to do. And we need a lot more of that. We need that to be a universal standard at this point. And What happens when men are not doing this? Well, the girls suffer abuse. They lose scholarships. Their safety is at risk. They get punished if they speak out. The fathers get investigated and banned and in some cases arrested. But the media, the American Pravda, will say that these fathers are bigots. These fathers are extremists. These fathers are not fit for polite society because they want to protect their daughters, because they haven't evolved to the point where they can see that these gender confused, gender deluded people are they have the right to compete against and abuse and threaten the safety of their children. And if you don't accept that, then you're a bigot, you're hateful. But it's a lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And I applaud these guys for stepping up. And it's not just, I don't think it's just the men. Men play a huge, vitally important role, absolutely. But churches need to get involved. Churches need to get involved. A lot of churches shy away from addressing these real world issues. I'm so thankful my church doesn't. I'm very thankful that they address it. They call it out. The church, not just my church, but the church as an entity in general, as a whole, they have to reclaim a biblical worldview, a biblical view of gender, protection, and leadership. Because otherwise, again, if we don't, we could end up like the UK. Now, I will admit that the UK, Europe has backed off of this gender ideology nonsense, but it's still there. But the policies are a symptom of the bigger issue of passivity when it comes to men in particular, Christians in general, sitting by and just letting this happen. Now is the time. Now is the time to speak up because, and I meant to mention this before when we were talking about the UK. If we don't step up, we're going to be in that same boat. In Florida, they have Muslim groups, and here in Texas too, Muslim groups that are taking over large swaths of land and area, and so it's up to us. It's up to us to not be passive and stand up. It's not hatred. It is absolutely not hatred. It's about order. It's about truth. And if we don't stand up and set things in order and speak the truth, we're going to fall too. All right. I want to pivot to something that's just as serious, but the way it was approached by President Trump was was pretty funny. President Trump met with the South African president Cyril Ramaphosa and pretty much lowered the boom on him because they're trying to say that there is no genocide taking place in South Africa. And I'm not going to play the clip of him in the Oval Office playing the tape. Most of us paying attention have seen the footage that was in that tape of the Black South Africans calling for the killing the Boer, which is the Dutch descendants of descendants of the Dutch settlers who ended up over there. And he denied it, of course, and all the apologists in the media are saying that there is no such thing as there is no genocide over there. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But he denied that there was any targeting of white South Africans in over there. But there is actually footage of him calling for the seizing of land from the white South Africans. He said that it's not. He signed a law to that effect. He signed a law to that effect, and then denied it in the Oval Office, saying that that's not true. But here, in his own words, he's calling for it.
The question of land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation. And it must happen now.
I don't know if you caught that, but he said that the land must be returned to our people without any compensation. And then he signed the law to that effect and then denied it. So, I mean, he's the fact that these people do this and there's no pushback from the American Pravda whatsoever. And all you got to do is put in your favorite search engine, South African genocide, and story after story will pop up. They'll have to sort through. I wouldn't use Google. Google won't pull it up for you. Or if they do, it'll be like 15 pages into the results. But the stories are out there. The stories are out there. But what kills me is that these people are denying that it's happening. And one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, they say that there is no genocide. And the International Association of Genocide Scholars defines genocide as, where'd it go? Genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. As such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. I would submit that what's going on in South Africa fits that definition. Tell me I'm wrong. Change my mind. But aside from that, um, and I mean, like I said, we've all seen the videos of the crosses and the cars lining up to pay respect to those fallen people. And there's an actual memorial. Um, I just found this out last night. I haven't had a chance to to pull up the videos, but there's an actual memorial in South Africa that was paid for by the farmers who are still there. A stone memorial with a plaque with plaques, because it's several structures listing all of the victims of homicide, all of the farmers who were victims of homicide, kind of like a Vietnam memorial type thing. And it's huge. It is absolutely huge. So for anyone to say that it's not homicide, they're just denying reality. They're denying reality. And so is, of course, CNN. Because right after this, President Trump's um, right after President Trump's meeting where he played that video, CNN was quick to jump on the air and try to debunk the claims of genocide. And of course, well, let's just take a look at it, because this is nothing short of astonishing.
Larry, has been debate over that song, that anti-apartheid chant, right? And for people who don't have a historical context, it does potentially appear more literal.
They're talking about the "Kill the Boer" chant that is famous and has been around since the times of apartheid.
To us about the debate that has happened inside of South Africa, with the recognition of how it appears to people when they hear those words.
It is an inflammatory song, without a doubt. And many in South Africa, even Black South Africans, don't think it should be sung in a post-apartheid world, 30 years plus after apartheid. But there are many who grew up under those years of white minority rule who understand the historical context of this song, "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer," that Julius Malema has made popular again. It sort of fell into disuse. It's not been that commonly sung after the end of apartheid in 1994, but it's brought it back again to reanimate the issue of the majority of land in South Africa still being owned by white farmers.
Larry.
Historical context. It's not that big a deal. They don't really mean kill the Boer. Come on. But I applaud President Trump for bringing it up in public, in the Oval Office, in front of the president of South Africa and a lot of his representatives who refuse to watch. And they refuse to watch because they know that it refutes everything that they're trying to say. And the ironic thing is, the president of South Africa, he brought a couple of white South African golfers, Ernie Els and I can't remember, Retief Goosen. And they contradicted what he was saying. They said, yeah, their families have been targeted. Their families have been killed. Their family members, not their whole families, but family members have been killed. Jaco Booyens, who has Jaco Booyens Ministries, who does a lot of great work with human trafficking, fighting human trafficking. He's from South Africa. His family, almost all of his family, is still there, and he's had family members of his killed. as a result of this. So I don't want to hear this nonsense that there's no genocide. Because the question then becomes, if there's, well, what's the number of people killed before it qualifies as a genocide? What's the number? And of course, they'll never answer that. They'll just say that, well, black people are getting killed over there too. Well, yeah, we live in a fallen world, of course. But the fact remains, this is a targeted, this is a good movement against white South Africans. And the American Pravda is complicit in trying to cover it up, as usual. All right, I got a couple of minutes left, and I really wanted to get to this, because this is outstanding. Megyn Kelly took Jake Tapper to the woodshed. Of course, Jake Tapper co-wrote the book Original Sin about the cover-up, the cover-up of Biden's cognitive decline. And I don't want to really give Tapper credit. He doesn't really have much of a choice, but I kind of have to give him a little bit of credit for actually talking to Megyn Kelly, because she is no nonsense. She does not pull punches, and she let him have it. And I want to play this right here. It's a clip from Avita Duffy's show. She's on Silverlock Media, formerly Dan Bongino's network. And I'm not going to play her commentary, but I want you to hear what Megyn Kelly has to say, because this is outstanding. Oh, Megyn Kelly, she pulls absolutely no punches.
Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes did an amazing job in their reporting, and they should be heralded, and I heralded them. I had a show right after.
Uh-oh.
Reporting. But
After
Annie Linsky,
the debate. But you did not put them on when they published that story, which was before the debate.
correct. I don't know what the booking situation was, but it wasn't because I didn't want them. I'm sure I said that day, let's book. I'm sure I said that day, let's book that. Did they?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
put on a Democrat, and you allowed the Democrat to rip on the report as a Rupert Murdoch sponsored hit piece.
No.
It's just
Megyn,
that's
Megyn,
what happened.
if we're going to do this, let's just stick to the facts here, okay? When there is a damaging
Jake,
report,
that's what I've been doing all along. One of us didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics, and one of us did.
It's so brilliant, because she's
It really
right.
was brilliant.
Jake Tapper mixed.
It really was brilliant. And if you have to watch that whole interview. I had a couple of other clips I wanted to play, but I'm out of time, obviously. She let him have it. She took him to the woodshed. It was brilliant to watch. But unfortunately, that is all the time that I have. I will keep trying to make this show, to make each episode better than the last. If any of what I had to say hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share this video with everyone that you know, because I just don't want to opine for opine's sake. I want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for our future generations. So if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs that we have over there, like this one: Christian, straight male, unwoke, unvaxxed, and the list goes on. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your point up and your head on a swivel. God bless.